So I'm just, oh, let me just, got to put it back. Right, I'm just going over this with the white, round circular movements. Okay. So it looks like this one's got quite a bit of texture to it. So I am going to go in with the cold grey one. I'm just going to make some sort of little bits of texture on there. Let me just go back over there. Need to make that a bit lighter. And just go over with the cold grey one again a bit there. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to this little bit in here, and it's kind of like blurred out because it's the focus isn't really on it. So no, that's a bit too bright, although actually the India red, I'm just gonna work on that around the top part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish this with white. So just basic want to add the layers. And going to go in with the Caput Mortuum. And then I'm just going to add the white. And I'm just going to do this part in a different direction. And then what I'm going to do on top is I'm going to add some walnut brown. Just along this part. There's a little bit along there. So it's not going to need much doing to it. Just very, very lightly on top with the walnut brown, and just slightly on the edge there. I'm going to go in with the India red on the top. And then back in with the white on that part. And then just want to come down here with the walnut brown. Just needs to sort of stand out slightly. So that's that bit they're done. Right, that. Okay, so we're going to move in on to this one. I'm going to go in with the walnut brown. So I'm using a medium to light, light to medium pressure, so that we can build up those layers. And the, where is it? Dark sepia, just around here, because it's a bit darker. Then I'm going to sort of go over this part, the walnut brown area, with the white. So I'm going to work on this part in a moment, but I just want to get the inner part done. Dark sepia. Caput mortuum violet. And then back in with the white. Just along the edge there where it's lighter. And then what I'm going to do is just going to go over the white area. So I've got like a medium pressure going on here. Okay, then I want to add in a bit of the India red, just to sort of make some slight markings on there. And on the lower part here, no, not that one, sorry, the walnut brown. Nope, this bit here, sorry. You've got to really sort of, you know, pay close attention and just keep looking carefully and just remembering which part that you're working on. Because it's with something like this, it's easy to get lost. Then I want to add, I'm going to go in for a bit of warm grey one, I think. And then I'm going to use the white again just to go around it and add another layer to it. So now I want to go down and do that part of it. So I'm going to go in first of all, I think with the walnut brown, to add a base layer, because we're going to be using the dark sepia because some of the areas are quite dark. Right, dark sepia. So there's just under here coming down, just comes down slightly, and then over here it's quite dark coming down. And then around here there's another part. I'm going to go in with the cold grey 1. Some areas do have some lightness in it. And of course around here it's quite dark. Just down the bottom there, but I am going to lighten this part up round here. So just along there, it's got some texture on it, so we're just going to do very lightly like that. Just small movements with the pencil. And that's going to come down to about there. And then back in with the dark sepia, because just around here, so I'm going to show the contrast. Like that. So although it's dark and that's dark, you can still see there's a difference there. Right, so the next one we're going to do is we're going to come down this way, I think, is, right, so we've done that one. That one's already done, so it's that one. So we're going to do this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a walnut brown. This kind of needs a bit of a change around here a bit, but that's fine. We can sort that out as we're going along. So it's going to be darker towards the middle area. And it is dark in there, but, so we've got that line, that's that. Ah, right, okay. So that needs to be like that in there. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so it's a thin line there. So as I said, I'm just going to continue with the walnut brown. And then I'm going to come in with the Caput Mortuum Violet. So round circular movement, just so that we don't get streaks. The only time we want to see lines is when we're actually adding our texture and highlight on it, but under the base layer we just want those colours to blend. Okay, so the light to medium pressure has taken out most of the tooth. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in with the dark sepia, because it's quite dark in here. It's kind of more dark just down this area, down here. Let's just come back in with the walnut brown. Just a bit more of the Caput Mortuum Violet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, actually let's go along the side, this side here with the Caput Mortuum. Till about there. And then we're going to go in with the cold grey one. Because we want that we don't want it to be like a deep colour. It's in the shadow, but it's walnut brown, so it's not going to be pure white. So we're just going to use the walnut brown just to sort of come up there. And again, I'm not pressing too heavily here. Let's just go back in with the cold grey one. Just gonna, before we do any more on this part, I just want to come in with the white. So this is like a medium pressure. Try not to sort of drag the rest of the colour in. Just going along this part a bit. Let's just add a bit of it's a bit blunt actually on that point, so just going to get more of a point, more of a point, small point on that. And going to come in there with that. Right, and then if you hear me sort of, you know, just keep sort of blowing the on the surface, it's because when we're actually adding layers it can build up loose pigment, so rather than using a brush to brush it away, which if I did that it would smudge to the surrounding paper, I'm just blowing the excess pigment off, you know, off of the paper. Okay, so just along this part I'm going to use the cold grey one, because it sort of comes across onto our dark shades. Like I mentioned previously, the lighter shades work really well on top, and that's how it's helping us with our texture. Going to work in a bit of cap at mortem. And I'm just going to add a bit of a finer point onto the walnut brown. Okay, and then I can come in, just add a little bit there. Right. Just a bit more onto the, bit more of the cold grey one onto here. And what I'm going to do is, this is the India red. And we're just going over that in the cold grey one, just to sort of balance that out a bit. And then I just want to add a little bit of cap at mortem around here. And then a cold grey one on top of that as well. And then let's have a look. Yeah, but some of the nougat are going to go in around here, just to draw in a little bit of that texture coming down. And then use some of that white, round circular movement. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work on this one. So this one's not going to actually take that long. So cap at mortem violet, So just gonna lightly draw around the area, you know, the snow part of the fir cone that we've just done. Now I can see that we need to add a bit more dark sepia around here. Okay, excuse me, my voice keeps going. Okay, so back in with the Caput Mortuum Violet. It's just going to be very, very small amount of it. And then like that. So this isn't really that focused either. I'm just going to go and around in this part with the white. Now it doesn't matter too much if you go into the colour on this part. And now I'm going to go in with the cold grey one. So it's not going to show a lot of detail. A bit more of the Caput Mortuum. And I think the walnut brown around this area. And I'm just going to add a bit of more of a point to the cold grey one. Okay, so I want just along that part there. Okay, that's that one done. Next we are going to be moving to this one. So we already plotted the shadow for that one, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and do a layer of the Caput Mortuum Violet on top. So it also comes in dark around here, around this one. So I'm just going to carry on with the layers with the dark sepia on this part. So it's actually in that central part there, you can sort of see it's quite dark. Okay, so back with the Caput Mortuum Violet. So we're just going to continue with a few layers. Just light to medium pressure. Now we're going to go in with the walnut brown on this part. Okay, and then I'm just going to carry on just up to here. And then it's going to get lighter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with the cold grey one. Yep, that's that. Just along this part here, because this is the side area. I'm just going to add it very lightly along there, and then I'm going to go over it again with the walnut brown. So I'm just going to carry on with the white around here. This is just adding a layer in between, maybe just a bit down there. Ooh. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in with some of the nougat. Just to sort of blend that up. Actually, I'm going to add some along there. With, I think, towards the bottom part, it's going to have some dark sepia. Let me just get a bit of a point on that as well. This should have more. Actually, I go in with the That should be further down. Not to worry though, we can do something with this. There's always a solution. Let's go in with a bit of, actually let's try some ivory. Okay, I'll just make that slightly darker there, just to give us a little bit of a shadow. That's from the dark sepia. Okay, right, dark sepia again. Actually that has got tooth showing through, but it also only just needs a bit of white on it, just on that corner part there. So it's good to sort of whilst you're adding all of your colours, when you're sort of looking around at the previous ones that you've done, you know, you can sort of see sort of different things that might need amending, and that's absolutely fine. Right, India red. It's just always something to sort of bear in mind, the fact that the actual colour that you're putting on isn't necessarily going to be the end. You know, when you think you finished it, when you sort of move on to the next one, you'll see it needs something different. Right, Caput Mortem Violet. I just want to give that a bit more of a point. I'm just going in and just adding a bit of texture for it, and I think that just needs to stand out a bit more. Right, let's just go around that with the white. Okay, so then we're going to, I think, let's have a look. So we've just done that one. So we're going to work on this one now. Now, you can't see anything of the front of this one because it's all down the back. And what we've done is we've kind of like actually done, this is the dark sepia, we've actually done this one already. Because it forms part of this one and this one. So what we're doing instead is we're going to be working on the top part. So I'm just going to go in and add some of the India red. then just a little bit there. So then I'm just going to go over that in white. About medium pressure. And try not to sort of go in to any of these darker colours. Right. So I'm going to go in with the bit of the warm grey too. I think that needs a cold grey too. Yeah. Right. So just going to add, because there's a bit of a ridge there. So it's just look sort of a slight arc movement there. And then a very little bit around here. And I'm just going to give that white a bit more of a point. And just go over. And then cold grey too, just to sort of finish it off ever so slightly. Okay, so we may need to go back and sort that one out, I think. But that will do for now for that one. Okay, next one is going to be this one. Okay, so we kind of like penciled that one in just to sort of make sure that we were getting it in the right angle. So I'm just going over that with the white pencil because it's lighter on the edge. So I'm going to start off with the Caput Mortuum Violet in this part. Light to medium pressure. And then it's actually quite lighter down here. I'm just going to add in the India red. But I'm also going to add colour over the top of it. So cold grey one over that part. Then I think dark sepia on this part. And just above this part, sort of comes down. But I'm just going to go around that again with the India red. And above that, just going to try the nougat. And so we've got the dark sepia. I'm just going to go in with the ivory. There's a slight mark there, just on the dark sepia part. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with the cold grey, the one just coming down here. Okay. And then I'm just going to work on that part there. So I'm going to go in with the walnut brown as a base layer. Try not to go, be very careful around this part here that we worked on just now, because it's so easy to sort of go into it. So this part is, this is the dark sepia in here. So this part is quite dark. And then we've got, just going to go in with some caput mortuum on this part. And again, try not to go in that one there. Right, so what I'm going to do is on that part, cold grey one, and then just along the edge there. going to go and add some nougat around here. Okay. And then just to work on the top part, so I'm going to go in with the cold grey 1 along the top here. No, that's the cold grey 2. Actually, that doesn't matter too much. The cold grey 2 will be absolutely fine. It's going to be fine because we're going to go over it anyway with white. So the cold grey 1 for this part around here. And then I'm just going to go over all of the white area with white pencil. Okay, so something needs doing in here, I think. So we've just done that bit. So that bit needs, so this is the walnut brown. Just needs a bit darkening. And that bit kind of blends in with that anyway. Just add a bit more of the walnut brown around there. Yep, that's fine. So let's just work on that part. So we'll go with, again, we don't need a lot on this area. So that was Caput Mortem. I'm going to go over that with some of the cold grey 1. And then I'm going to go in with this on this area. Use the white and the walnut brown on there with a bit more of the cold grey 1. And I can also see there's a very, very slight line, so which shows the slight back of that part of the cone. And I'm going to go in with the cold grey just to sort of blend that and take it out of focus. Okay, And then we're going to work on this one. So let's go in with the cap at mortem. Actually, that part's going to be dark, so I'm going to use the walnut brown for that part. Then I'm going to go in with the cap at mortem. And again, because we're nearer the top, it's not so dark here. Just gonna come around that area. Right, I'm gonna go in with the grey, cold grey one, just to lighten that slightly. But it also adds another layer to it. We're not going to go into the walnut brown area. We'll sort this bit out in a moment. I'm going to go in with the nougat along here. So I'm just going to take it nearish to the walnut brown, but not quite because of the cold grey one that comes down here. I'm just going to carry on with the cap at mortem down them in here. I'll just go over that again with the cold grey one. And then we're just going to work on this part. So I'm going to go in this part with the white. And this area with the grey, cold grey one. And then what I'm going to do is go in with the nougat again on this area. Walnut brown. And just going to go in with the India red up here. And I want to dull that down a bit with the white. light bit there. Let's go back in with a nougat. Okay,